And we are live. Welcome, everyone. Today we have guest Marsha
Yeah.
Kurtzinger, and she is with Bluegrass Paranormal and Adventures. So, welcome to have you, Marsha. Thank you for
Good to
joining.
be here.
Oh, absolutely amazing. Marsha is going to tell her true story. This is about how she was born with open abilities and then went through the process for years with how we are told many times by parents and different loved ones that oh, that's not real, or they don't want to talk about it if they do acknowledge it's real. And then fast forwarding to today, how Marsha went through the awakening process and her abilities are just starting to really blossom, that she noticed that she had as a child. So, we know this is going to be able to help many as they are going through their awakening journey. So, we each have our own stories. Some are similar, but they're not all the same. So that's what's important, because every awakening journey has its uniqueness. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to turn this over to you, Marsha.
Okay.
So have you, and anyone in the live chat, welcome. We are so glad to have you as well. And if you have any questions for Marsha along the way, she cannot see the comments, but I can. So I'm going to be monitoring the comments for her, and I will stop her at any point when you have a question, and see what Marsha has to say about it. Okay, Marsha, take it from here.
All right, everybody. So this is my first one, so I'm a little nervous. I might lose my place, but I'll get back on track with Michelle's help. And like Michelle said, my name is Marcia, and I'm from Kentucky. I grew up in Lexington, Kentucky, and my husband has been my main supporter. And without him, I wouldn't be at this moment where I am now. Because as a child, I can remember at 3 or 4, I would have spirits come to my room at night, and I had this, how they had the little girls' table and chairs, at our age back then, the
Yeah,
little metal legs. Well, I had a room with my brother, and I had the top bunk bed, and I would look down, and I would see them sitting at this table and chair, and I would run to my parents' room, scared to death. Mom, I'm seeing this. Well, that's not real. Go back to bed. You had a nightmare. Or, it was a shadow coming through the window. And I would keep telling her, no, I'm seeing this. And she always, would always just keep pushing it away. And I'm like, well, okay. And then move forward to about, I don't know, a year or two later, I started having all of these nightmares. I mean, brutal, graphic nightmares. And I would run and tell her, about my dreams. And I'm like, Mom, I want to keep my light on, or I want to sleep with you. And it was always, no, go back to your room. Nothing, it's not real. So I just kept, okay. So, as a child, you're like, okay, maybe it is just dreams. And then around 9 years old, um, my granddad, which is my dad's father, passed away of a massive heart attack. And we were really close. And my mom, of course, wouldn't let me go to the funeral. You're too young. You can't go say goodbye. This is the way it is. When someone passes away, the kids stay home. So at that point, I was like, okay, I really didn't get to say goodbye. And I was up in my room one night, and my room was upstairs, and I didn't even have a window. So you can see how dark it would be. So I had a little nightlight on in the corner, and all of a sudden I woke up and I saw this bright light just going around my room in circles. And I just sat there and I was like, so I sat up and I held my hand out, and the light just kind of gently touched my hand and went off. And my first thought was, I couldn't go see my granddad, but he came to see me to say goodbye. So I ran down and I told my parents, and of course, then again, she's like, it's shadows. And I was like, well, Mom, I don't have a window in my room. Anything that I said or saw she always wanted to play it off.
hmm
And I just kept going through that. And let me turn I'm kind of losing my track here. And then my aunt, one of my favorite aunts, which is my mom's sister. She lived next door to my grandparents. So that was neat because I had my dad's parents and then I had my aunt on the next door. So when I went over, I got to see both of them. So, you know, it was exciting as a kid. And I remember going to her house and she would push in the dining room chairs and they would push back out. And, you know, she'd push it in and you could see cigarette smoke like someone was sitting in those chairs. You know, and we were the only ones in the house, so I would kind of just look over at her and she wouldn't say a word, but she would look at me like, I know you're seeing what I'm seeing. And, you know, to me, I was like, okay. And that was the connection that we had. I knew that she knew and she knew that I knew. But, you know, being that young, she really didn't speak to me about it. So then again, there I was like, okay, I'm still seeing stuff and I'm still not getting any answers. So I got to feeling like, okay, what's wrong with me? Everybody else is telling me this is not real. You're not seeing this. You're not hearing this, you know. So as a teenager, my mom, she became very toxic and abusive mentally and emotionally. She, you know, anything that I said, everything was wrong. And I have a brother, but she wasn't that way towards my brother. And I always thought, well, why is she like that towards me? You know, is it me? Is something wrong with me? So I kept pushing that as a teenager. And then I went through a long journey of depression and anxiety over it because I got to thinking, you know, why does she hate me? Why is she doing this to me? And for a long time, it just, you know, high school, that's the age where your body's growing, you're in a lot of different scenarios, and, you know, you want that support from your mother, but yeah. I never could get it. So I, like I said, I pushed that deeper and deeper, and I kind of, anything I started to see, I would just kind of try to block it. I was trying to ignore anything that was coming through. If I saw it, I would just, you know, go, you know, opposite direction. If I heard it, I just kind of wanted to close my ears. And so I finally started this. I know I'm a shy person, but, you know, I finally started writing poems, writing songs, and that was my getaway to my anxiety and depression. I would play on the guitar, but my mom never supported me in anything. So I actually, a contest that came on the television about writing the poem, and if you won, you would be published in this book that was in the libraries. And I thought, because here I go, I run up there to get my paper and my envelope, and I'm addressing it, and I put it in the mailbox. Believe it or not, I won. So my poem was published in this book, and I showed my mom, but it was just like, you know, it was like, okay. So that, you know, no matter what I do, wasn't getting any, I guess what I call affection that I needed from a parent, or anything that I needed her to talk to about the things I was seeing. It was just like, you know, heartbreaking as a child because you're going through why, you just keep asking why.
Yeah.
And I have so much I could tell, but I'm trying to skip through and just make some main points to let everybody know. But I moved towards adulthood. I'm gonna skip to that part. I just kept pushing everything away, rejecting my abilities. I guess the only way I can explain it. It was just keep shutting it down. And once I graduated, I went into pharmaceuticals. I became a certified pharmacy technician.
Nice.
So that's what I was doing. And once Wayne and I got together, I started seeing stuff again. So then I was like, okay, how am I going to tell him? You know, is he going to think that I'm crazy? So, you know, I would start telling him, I would say, hey, I dreamed this, or I'm seeing this in the corner of the room, or if anyone else ever gets, you hear the whispers in your ear, they're calling your name. And I would tell him, and he was like, well, he said, you can see and hear things that other people can't. That was his first thing that he ever said. And I was like, whoa, that's what I needed to hear. Finally hear somebody saying, I'm not crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then, like I said, if you feel it and hear it, even smell it, like different perfumes, or like if a loved one that's passed that smoked and you go through the house and all of a sudden you're smelling the cigarette smoke, or you feel the little gentle touch on your arms, they're there. So then I would start telling him, okay, I don't smoke, you don't smoke, I'm smelling cigarette smoke. And he was like, his parents had actually passed away. I never met them before we got married. And he'd say, well, my dad used to smoke. So I was like, okay, so now I know, I was kind of putting two and two together. And
Yeah.
there's times that we would be outside. I was helping him with the project, and all of a sudden I'd get pushed on the shoulder, or somebody pinched my leg, and he'd start giggling. And I'd say, what? I said, you see that? He said, I saw it. He said, but that's the kind of things that my dad would do.
Oh.
So I was like, so he's coming by to say, he's glad we're married. I'm glad he likes me and can pick with me. And so Wayne never really questioned it. He knew, because he said, well, to be honest, he said, when my dad passed away, we live in the country now, but he said, when my dad passed away, I went to visit the cemetery, and there was a gate you had to open to go in. And he said, and the first thing I heard was, hi, Wayne, how have you been? So Wayne can actually hear too.
Wow.
He had never been told, I'm the one who said, that's your dad speaking to you. He was kind of shocked too. He's like, oh, wait a minute, I did actually hear that. So that's where, he has helped me, because no matter what I've seen or heard, he's always said, even though I can't hear it or see it, I know you are. So
Oh,
that was my acknowledgement. I needed my whole life to hear that. So, after that, still working in the pharmacy, people were always drawn to me. They would always come to me and ask me anything, or if someone came in, I could feel, something was wrong with them. I could, feel their energy was coming on me. And it got to the point where sometimes it was just like, okay, I'm too much feeling that it was getting to me, to where I would start crying. I'm like, well, why am I crying? I don't know anything about this person. Or so what I was doing, I was drawing their energies as well. And of course, I didn't have internet. I didn't have anything to try to look up to find out any information. I didn't have anyone to talk to about it besides Wayne. And of course, I was teaching him things, and, it was kind of, leading each other. And in the early 2000s, all of a sudden, my health took a turn for the worse, and I'd never had any issues before. If anybody knows and ever heard of interstitial cystitis, it's painful bladder syndrome.
yes.
Yes. Well, I developed, at the time, I didn't know what it was. Just all of a sudden, I would double over at work where I couldn't hardly stand. And they thought, they checked my appendix. And finally, with all the tests, they found out, what it was. And got to the point where I was missing work. I was, certain things I would eat would send me doubled over. And what it was is certain things you would eat would cause that bladder to just shrink all of a sudden, like a big surge. And, very painful. I would, be doubled up crying because it hurt so bad. So I started going to the doctor, urologist, and every time I went, they wanted to do procedures where they stretched my bladder. So they would stretch it, in the office as far as they could, and then put these, like a chemical cocktail up in your bladder to try to keep you from having the spasms. And I kept going, and it was just getting worse and worse. And then Wayne was like, you know what? He said, if you don't care, he said, I want you to stay home. He said, I can take care of us both. He said, I want you to be home. I want you to get better. We need to, find out what's going on. So I did. And it wasn't long after that, I had several procedures in the hospital. Nothing was getting better. So I stopped working and was able to focus more on me, my health, getting better. I went back to another doctor's appointment, but the door was closed. There was a sign they had shut down. And I'm like, okay, why didn't they call me? So this doctor was just gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided, you know what? I'm going to try to heal this on my own, change my diet, different things, anything I could practice to keep them happening. And eventually it was gone. I don't have it anymore.
Wow.
That being said, once I started that and was able to be home and focus, I started developing and seeing more again. The spirits were coming back. I was hearing them. So it was pretty much, to me, it was like, okay, it's time to stop. You put me aside all this time. Now you're going to have to stop and listen.
Oh, can I stop you right? Because this is so interesting. First of all, Angie Prater, welcome, Angie, says, so she is going through the same thing that you went through physically. So, the interesting thing that when I speak to so many people is, I like to call it illness to awakening, because there are so many of us that I speak with that they've experienced some kind of traumatic energy, yes, or some kind of illness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, as soon as they begin to heal or are in the stages of healing from that, it's like all of a sudden their abilities increase, and that's what happened to me as well. So it's very interesting to me. It's almost like a feeling, I don't know, I don't have the full answers, right? But, it just makes me feel like that, many times what's happening is it's almost like spirit slowing us down, like making us slow down so we can connect, so we can begin to, allow ourselves to open. Because, we are in such a busy world, such a busy era, constant movement and constant go, go, go. And, a lot of times unless we are aware that, we need to take that extra time to meditate or to just allow spirit to come through, many times we're so busy that we keep everything blocked off. So I feel like times, with many of us, that when we begin experiencing some sort of illness, that almost, I don't really like the word force, but it almost forces. I mean, that's what happened to me. It's like I was forced to be in bed for 2 years.
Wow.
And so it's like during that time, as well as many other people have said, like during that illness, it's like you have to slow down. You have to concentrate on your body, mind, and spirit, and nothing else. And it's like when we do that and we begin aligning and bringing ourselves back into balance, then it's like all of a sudden you start noticing, oh my goodness, there's a sign. Oh my goodness, I heard something. Oh my goodness, I saw something. Or you recognize that as you close your eyes or blink, there's something I saw that I've never seen before, or I did as a child, but I haven't in all these years, and now it's coming back full force.
Right. Yep. Exactly. And I did leave out before my interstitial cystitis happened. I was going through a phase of that, the anxiety and depression still. And I did start going to a therapist, and he developed me with major depressive disorder back then because, like I said, I had a very toxic childhood. There's a lot, that can be said and told, but I just, basically my mom was very toxic emotionally, mentally, physically. So through that, I call what I had a shadow man that would actually appear in the corner of our dining room. And I would tell Wayne, I was like, okay. He would catch me looking over out of the corner of my eye, and he'd say, "What do you see?" And I said, "Well, there's a shadow man standing over there. He doesn't have a face, but it was kind of like he had a dark hood over and kind of standing with his arms just crossed. And then no quicker than I would look over, he would disappear. But once I went through the interstitial cystitis and all of that, the shadow man disappeared.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I stop you? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Shadow man. See, I have experienced that too, especially, as a child. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something like no matter where I moved to as a child with my family, it would follow. And it did the same thing. It would like peek around the doorways, like it would hang out in the hallways.
Yes.
And it would peek around the doorways, and as soon it's like you get that glimpse, but then it's gone.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You saw it. Without a
Yeah.
doubt that shadow person was there. But
Yes.
as soon as it's like peripherally, you see it. And as soon as your eyes make contact, boom, it's gone.
Yes. And my aunt, she had a shadow man at her home as well. My favorite aunt that I would go to, I would be sitting at the dining room table with her as a teenager and adult. And I would just look over at the corner of my eye and just see him walk past. And she'd look at me. She said, "You saw that, didn't you?" And I would say, "Yes." But we never really got into the conversation of what it was. But like I said, it was the knowing that even as a child and adulthood that I still saw what she was seeing. So that was our connection. She was like, I would go to her for everything. She was like a mom to me. It was my mom's sister.
So that being said, now something I've also noticed with other people is that when they are open and they remember being open as a child, because we all have these abilities within us, every single one of us. But
Everybody.
yes, everyone, and it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, I've noticed that a lot of people that when they're a child and they can remember their own abilities as a child, they also have family members that have these abilities as well. So it's like for many people, now it's not going to be every person, because the awakening is happening worldwide. But
Right.
I'm saying there are some that I have spoken to, including myself, that it runs in the family line. So
Yes.
it's very interesting too. And Pamela says, "I've had that shadow man before as well." So, this shadow person is definitely real.
Yes.
Pamela, can you tell us? I know it's you're having to text and everything, but if you have time, I would really appreciate if you could tell us just a little bit about that in the live chat. If you're still here, that would be very exciting and hopefully informative to anyone that comes on that may be experiencing the shadow person and thinking, am I,
Right. Yes.
right,
Yeah.
something happening here.
Yes.
Because yes, the shadow person is definitely real. And from my experience, now I would like to hear yours as well. But from my experience, it was a very, very negative energy. How was your experience with the shadow man?
That's what it was for me as well. Anytime I would see him come in the room, it was just like, I call it like a doom, because I would feel it and I would look over, and to me, it was like he never said anything. You couldn't see a face, but it was the presence. You knew that it was something bad.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
It's like overpowering,
Yes.
overwhelming, especially when you're a child. It's, and you don't know what's going on, because I didn't, with how I was raised in the, religion, the certain religion, everything was, if it wasn't an angel or God, it was demonic. And of
Yes.
course, the shadow man, this was not good. This was,
Right.
this was just not, this was a very negative entity. And and like you said, you could feel the presence. I could feel that doom and gloom and just so overpowering, and I would just scream. And and usually now the shadow man, I had a lot of entities that would bother me around, give or take 3 a.m. And I would be screaming every single night for my mom. However, this shadow man would appear like when I would come home from school.
Yes.
Anywhere that there was like down the hallway, if it was darker, I could feel it. There were times, I'm getting chills right now.
Me
Even
too. Me too.
my dad had married my ex stepmother years ago, and she had 3 children. And at that time, they were living with us as well. And this happened in Richmond, Kentucky. And we would come home from school, and of course, the parents would be at work. And there would be so many times that when we would walk in the house, we would literally have to go outside and stay until they came home and sit, and sometimes for hours until they would get off work, because it was so overpowering. We all felt it, even though we may not have all seen it. We could all
Right.
feel it, and it
Yes.
would really run us out.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times, like I said, I would be sitting on the couch, watching TV, or just walking through a room, or like you said, seeing it go down the hallway. But you felt to this, because it was always to this side of me, the way I was sitting, you could feel it when it came in the room. It was just like a heaviness that would just sit on your shoulders, and you were just like, and then as soon as you would turn over, he would be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Pamela said, yes, it's very real. He had
Oh,
a top. Yes. Okay. He had a top hat. Kind of made me think of Abraham Lincoln. Yes. I started seeing him at work first, which was an old 1889, okay, building. So I didn't think anything about it. Just a second. I wasn't scared, but so she's still typing.
but yes, the one at my aunt's house, he had a top hat, but the one here in my home, it was kind of like a hoodie, a black hoodie over your head where it comes up to the point. That was the kind that was here. So I've
So
seen two different types.
So, and I've seen both as well. And so it makes
Mhm.
me wonder, okay, so are these the same entities coming from the same realm? Or, I have so many questions about them. But at the same
Right.
time, it's like, and I'm the type of person now, I don't mind to dig deep into it, because I will face them head on psychically. I am not
Yeah.
scared anymore. Years ago, though, I would have been really afraid to delve into anything like that, because it took years for me to release my fear of the other realms.
Right.
um, but now I have so many questions. It's like, you know because sometimes, like you said, sometimes when I would see the shadow man, there was no hat. It was just like, uh, if you could think of a male, it always came through as like a masculine body.
Yes.
There was no indentions in the face. You couldn't see a nose. You couldn't see eyes. It was just like a shadow, like for real, a shadow.
I would
And
say like dark mist.
yeah, and
Mhm.
then other times the hat. So
Yep.
I don't know if it's the same entity. I don't know if it's the same, several different entities coming in and out from different realms. Is it just, what are your thoughts on that, Marcia?
That's the same. I always thought, well, is this something that's coming from another realm, trying to keep me from learning more, scare tactic, trying to keep me from finding anything else out, or to keep me from hearing. But I never was scared. It was not of the shadow man, because he came more in adulthood and teenage years, but it was more of, like you said, a heavy presence that you knew that something about him was not good.
Right. And so Pamela is finishing what she was saying. She said, but would never talk to him. He would never appear when anyone else was around. It was always when I was alone. Then I started seeing like a shadow blob at my house. No real shape, but it was like, and she's still typing.
Yeah. But I would, I got to the point where I would see him before he disappeared. I would say, I see you over there, before I would turn around just
Mhm.
to let him know, yeah, I see you, but you're not going to scare me.
I did that
Yeah.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I did
Or
that
I
too.
would say,
But only when I, like a few years ago, when I started releasing my fear, because
yeah,
until then, it was like, cover over
right.
my head.
Yeah. I did that as a child, anytime I would see spirits or something in the room, I would cover my head up, because
Yeah.
I couldn't get my mom to, talk to me about it. So I thought, there's something scary in my room. I'm hiding from it. Not that a cover is going to help you at all, but
You have, when you notice that you have these abilities open as a child and you don't have a mentor, it can be so tormenting, so terrifying, because you don't know what's happening. You know, just like being awakened, in the middle of the night. People, I realize now, people come to me, and many times they'll come to me and show me like how they actually passed. So sometimes it's not pretty. And when
right,
they would show themselves to me as a child, being raised to think about it the way that I was, automatically, if I see someone blue that's standing in front of me, okay, that's a demon. And now I realize that's not always the case. Now, I do believe, of course, there are negative energies. Like you, I've dealt with them myself since a child. However, looking back, many of those entities that would come to me, that needed help or trying to tell their story, I didn't get it because I didn't have a mentor. So,
right.
this will help, people, whether they realize that, oh my gosh, because it was like me, I didn't realize that I was a psychic medium until I was in my mid 30s. I was watching Oprah, and Sylvia Brown came on, and she was telling, like things that she experienced. And I was like, oh my gosh, me. Is
You
that what?
know,
Because I didn't even, you know as well as I do, we're both from Kentucky. I didn't know what that was.
I used to watch Sylvia Brown too. Yeah,
Had no idea. And that was a very taboo subject, you don't do, because this is the Bible Belt, right? And
right.
no, you don't talk about that. And hey, welcome. But and it's like now looking back, most of those entities that I encountered were actually people wanting help or wanting to tell their stories, or wanting uh, me to contact their family members, and so forth. So I feel like a lot of it, in a sense, if people watch this that have children that they know have open abilities, or they know that themselves had open abilities as a child and never really fully developed them or was afraid to, hopefully this will somehow be able to help, and because you're not alone.
Exactly. And that was another thing I had to learn as well for my abilities to open even more was, no matter what I went through as a child, even though as an adult, I got away from the toxic people, I was still holding on to everything in my mind because, I would be out and something come up and I'd say, well, my mom, and I got to thinking I had to stop myself. I'm thinking, I'm still carrying that negative energy until I finally had to break what I call break the chain of all the toxicity and cut that cord before anything else started to develop even more. You don't realize it. I didn't think I was holding on to it because I thought, I'm done with it. It's, years ago, and I was still doing that.
Right, right.
Mhm. And then once I did that, I started getting dreams and visions. Um, we live on where we're at now. We have about 2 acres that the house is sitting on, and then our neighbors, we live on a country road, and our neighbors are kind of diagonal. And I didn't know them. I would sit there on my porch and I would hear them over there arguing and their little kids crying, and I would try to ignore it. I thought, a young couple over there arguing. So I'd go, to the other side of the porch, and it got to the point where I would be sitting out there and I would start crying because I was feeling those little children's energies of what they were going through over there. And one night I had a dream that the boy over there had came over up on my porch, and he was holding up his hands and they were just all bloody.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, in my dream, I was trying to figure out, and it scared me because I thought, my first thought was, what's he going to come over here and do to me? His hands were bloody. I was the one that saw him, when I woke up the next morning. But a few days later, his wife had actually stabbed him in the stomach, and where he was holding his stomach was the bloody hands that I saw in my dream. So then I got to, okay, I'm noticing I'm getting more and more. I'm dreaming visions. I'm seeing stuff. And it was scary at first because, it was like, oh. And I thought, no, I can't be afraid. I've got to listen and see why I'm, keep developing. I'm not going to start putting you off again now that I'm starting to open even more. So you have to keep that mindset as well, that no matter what comes across, to take it openly and figure out what it is and what it means. Even the littlest signs could be something, from a loved one, like a white feather laying could be a sign that a loved one is, stopped by, But with those neighbors, I had told Wayne actually that next day that I'd had that dream, and his first thoughts too was, you better not come over here, and try to harm you. And I was kind of like, I don't know, I think it's more. And a day or two would go by and I would mention the dream again. And I'd say it was probably 2 months later. I had chest pains. Like I said, I've never met them before in my life. Didn't know anything about them. I started having chest pains at 3 a.m. And I was like, so I sat up in bed and I was like, oh, because it scared me. I thought, am I going to have a heart attack?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I laid back down, and it was a few hours later. You hear all these sirens, just tons of them. And I look out the window and they're all across the road. And what had happened was she overdosed, and I felt her energy of her stop breathing when it happened. So it was frightening, but I started putting it together. I was like, okay, I dreamed the knife. It was a build up to what was getting ready to happen. And I told Wayne, before she passed away, because the cops had came out and they were looking for the knife because they couldn't find it. And I told Wayne, I said, the knife is up there on the hill. We have like a bank on one side. He's like, you think that's where it is? I said, I know that's where it is. He said, well, tomorrow, why don't you go up there and look? So I went out there and I walked around, and right where I said it was where the knife was laying that she had stabbed him with. So I was just like, oh, so of course, then I had to call, the cops, and I told them I didn't want to be involved in any way. Don't put me in the story or the newspaper or anything else. But, I wanted you to see if this is a knife. So they took it. And the cop, he was like, well, how in the world did you know that was up here? And I was like, uh-oh, I'm not involved in this. I kind of got scared there for a minute. I said, I was just out walking, and I kind of, I saw you over there looking for it a few days ago. And I said, and I knew, I felt that it was up here. So he just kind of gave me a look and said, okay. He took it in to test it, and it did. Long story short, it actually was a knife. So, little things like that are starting to develop more. And like I said, at first, with the bloody hands and all that, and you're dreaming all this stuff, it is terrifying, but that it's given to you by the spirits. So you block it your whole life, and then once you start getting more, you just got to keep believing and knowing that that's where it's coming from, and to don't block it.
Yeah.
Don't fear it. Just listen. I call it my stop, look, and listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a reason why we're being shown these things or told these things, because it is to either help bring closure to those who have transitioned that need their story to be told, or at least there's this missing piece of the puzzle that they want someone, like in your case, to find the knife, you
Yeah.
know or help families, help those in our realm to get some kind of closure, or at least an idea, because there are people that I have worked with, just like I can't mention any names because I try to keep things confidential. But there was
Right.
one case that there was this person that reached out to me because a very dear, close person in their life, um, it was deemed suicide. However, it actually was not, because when I went to Spirit and I asked Spirit to bring forth the information needed for, finding out, was this, because the question was, did this person that did not leave any clues in any way, did they commit suicide? Because people were really stunned. They just couldn't believe, of course, that something, because it just would not be this person that would have done something like that. But of course, I never asked, right? I never asked for the details,
Right.
because allow Spirit to bring me the details and tell what needs to be told. That way they know it comes directly from Spirit, right?
Right.
So doing so, I was shown, a lot of things, and it was on purpose. It was to let them know. I was even shown what the murderer looked like. I was shown the people involved, that it was a murder made to look like suicide. There were, and the family was like, well, what did this person, what were they wearing? And the day of the suicide murder, and I told them, because that's what I was shown. And
Right.
they were like, oh my gosh, that's what she was wearing. So, Spirit is so real. And, there is a purpose, like you were saying, there is a definite purpose of why we're being given this information. It can help in so many different ways. And, it's not a thing of, like you said, we have to remain open. We have to get to that point where we absolutely release that fear. And as you said, trust in God, the Holy Divine, the universe, that, we are given certain information, because, I mean, think about it. So when you were given information about this knife that is in your area,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
So a lot of times I'm given information to my specific area. Now, when I do like what I was just talking about, it doesn't matter, because it's all consciousness. You know, Places does not matter. Realms does not matter. It's all consciousness. But I mean, if you think about it, many times we get shown in warnings of things right where we are, or situations that are very close to us, and, we don't always have the answers. I know there are times I don't figure things out of what things mean until after the
Mm-hmm.
fact. Do you
Yeah.
find that?
Yes. That's why I always said, just always, no matter what comes through, if you don't know, keep searching until you figure it out. It might not be until afterwards, then you make that click, like, yeah, that's what it was trying to say, or that, and then you start putting it all together. But that's what I call, now as an adult, I call the worst thing ever is to fear it and try to block it,
Yeah.
because that's when they'll stop coming. They won't, as far as, if you're blocking them, you're not going to hear them, even though they still might be standing right there, or they might be, you're just not going to hear it. So just don't fear it.
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And
And
that's one of the reasons why I started, the paranormal channel. Of course, I don't have Facebooks or anything like that, but I started it because that was my passion. I wanted to speak to the spirits. So I started going to the cemeteries. And, when you're out there and you can, you feel them touch your shoulder, or you get the goosebumps when they come behind you, or the certain smells, you can smell like flowery perfume. That is, to me, just so special. And it's a drawing, and you want to know more. So that's the reason I started the Bluegrass Paranormal, was because I wanted to go out and speak with the spirits. And I knew at that point that I wasn't afraid anymore. And I just wanted more and more and more and more. So
Yes. And so on that note, what are your thoughts? What can you tell the viewers about, because I know the way I was raised, and I do believe in some cases this can be true, right? About tricksters. Because I was raised that, any spirit that comes to you, that appears as someone who has passed on, that it's actually something demonic trying to trick, and do things like that. And again, I do feel like that is real, but most of the time that has not been the case for me. So what are your feelings?
well, I will say I wasn't raised in church, so I have more of open-mindedness about, demons or tricksters. So that was, you know, being raised in church, I guess, like you said, if your parents are always saying no, that's demonic, that would make you not want to, learn more. So I didn't have that. So like when I do go to the cemeteries and I am speaking to like the little child spirits, or there's this one little girl, Eve, that she'll come and pull on my shoulder, and she's always there she wants to play the games. I bring out the little cards and they say, the animals, and it's just like, if that's not evidence enough. But there is times when I'll take my little stool and I'm sitting there and they're coming through and they're talking to me, and I will, behind my back, I'll have one. Sometimes it'll pick it up on the video. I just don't ever put it in. I just see if anybody picks it up. You can hear one behind you whispering stuff, And to me, it's always been a male energy that's doing it, and it's like trying to whisper to get you off guard. And I'll say, I know you're behind me, and I'll just keep talking, and I never acknowledge it. So,
Yeah.
to me, that's, he's trying to take me away from actually talking to, the good spirits. But
Right.
I guess, to me, anything's possible.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That is a very good point, because, it's like I get people a lot that will come through and make certain comments, on my channel, and the thing is, what I have to say is this. When you have a relationship, a very personal, close relationship with God, the Holy Divine, and you use that to help others in this realm, and you help those who may be stuck, or needing to tell their story so they can move forward, whatever the case, to me that is absolutely beautiful. To me, we are all, when we're born, we're all in connection with our Creator.
Yeah.
We have what, you call the soft spot. That's what we call it a lot, right? But you have the fontanelle that's open at birth. It's open.
Mm-hmm. That
is a direct line. That's the seventh chakra. It's a direct access to spirit.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's kind of one of those things that, usually by between age 6, 7, somewhere through there, it's totally fused together. So it's like we have all of this time, which is really not a lot, but when you're a child, you have up until that point to really gain all the knowledge, everything that you can spiritually. So it makes it a much harder task when you have people that come in, parents and so forth, that say, that's not real. No, I'm sorry, that's imaginary, all
Right.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like part of our process is actually, as when that happens in our lives, that as we get older and we begin to realize, hey, wait a minute, was that real? Because it's happening to me now. And you start realizing that, hey, am I awakening?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on here? And you're like, oh, wait a minute. So I did have open abilities as a child. And it's really amazing, but you start forming this whole different view when you start the awakening process. And it's like, wow, okay, so how do I play catch up? But the thing is, with me now, this is just with me. Spirit worked with me in baby steps and still does,
Mm-hmm.
because I was told by Spirit that our brains cannot handle all the knowledge. So it's baby steps, of learning throughout my entire life. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so will I ever know it all? No, not in this, not in this shell that we're in. No, no, it's because it's not possible. It's
Right.
just not really possible. Um, but I definitely feel like for many children, I forgot the actual point I was going towards, but now Spirit's telling me something else here to bring forth. So it's like, I feel like with children, um, I feel like it's really important, especially if you're a parent and you are noticing that your child is saying things like, I just saw something, or I just had this dream about something, that it's really important to, maybe start documenting this stuff down. Start seeing and watching. Are things coming to pass that this child is saying? Because more and more, especially now with the Great Awakening, more and more children are, it's like they're coming in to this time, and they're really, really awakening.
Yes.
It's like their little lights are just glowing, shining to all.
Mm-hmm.
And, now's the time to really encourage our children that, hey, you know what? If you have abilities, let's figure it out. Even if the parents don't have the answers, that's okay. But reaching out to people who do at least maybe have some answers to help mentor, that can mean the difference between, a child growing up and feeling tormented and having some kind of trauma, as to, okay, you know what? This is what I came here to do and be, and let me learn it. Let me learn how to keep myself grounded. Let me learn how to use my abilities to help humanity, to help my close loved ones, and so forth. So I really think it's important, of course, that um, for children, because this is one of the main reasons that I had started my old channel, the Paranormal Experiencer, which is, it's not there. You'll see it, you'll find it, but I have taken down everything. But I had started that to ultimately help adults, to help if they have children, nieces, nephews, whatever. Um, it's just
And that's
really,
how I found you. That's exactly, not to interrupt, but that's how I came across you, because when I started the paranormal channel, that channel popped up as well. And that's how we started our connection, because I was started listening to your channels, and I was like, here we go. This is who I needed this whole time. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, there is my mentor. She's gonna help me as well. And the more and more I watched, it was just like, I had to get in touch with you.
oh, we're just such soul sisters, aren't we? It,
Hmm.
it's
And
like,
what made it even better, you were from Kentucky.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
think this. So we had moved to Florida, right? But my dad is having health issues, and so we've had to come back to Kentucky. And we had already hadn't we had already scheduled when I was in Florida? Hadn't we had already scheduled to do this today?
It
I
seems
don't.
like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we were even, my husband and
Yeah.
I, in Kentucky yet. and didn't even know we were going to have to come up here on an emergency basis.
Yeah.
So funny, because here we are again, both in Kentucky in this
Right. Yes.
doing live.
Yes.
Isn't it amazing?
It is. And that's the one thing I've learned too, is to always be present in the moment, no matter what it is, every little sign, watch it, listen to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Find out why. Most people are so busy throughout the day, they don't even notice the little signs that a spirit or loved one has came, to visit. So that's the one thing that I've learned. Guard your mind. Here, I know I've always watched the news, but here in the last couple months, I don't watch the news anymore because that was bringing more negativity in my home, in my mind. So that was like a blockage to me. And since I've done that, it's just so many things have started to come open and more alive. It's just amazing.
Absolutely. Well, something that's a good point, because something that was revealed to me about the news, but not just the news, just a lot of other things as well. That was focused more on negative side of things. It was like, as I was learning, and I still have a lot to learn on, YouTube and all the social medias. I am by far an expert at it, but I'm working on it, right? Um, but it's like, there are spirit, it was like an accident that I don't believe in accidents happened one day when I was going through learning YouTube Studio and looking at the analytics. And all of a sudden, it was like spirit linked something that I was seeing on my analytics with, this is about ratings. These programs are about fear. And what do people want to cling to usually if you are stuck in the 3D mindset at current? What do people cling to? Fear.
Fear.
Gosh, this happened. I got to know. And it's addicting.
Mm-hmm.
So addictive. And because it's like when I was being, like when that was coming clear to me, it was also coming clear to me, like I would think back to all the different things that I had even seen on, different social medias, fear, 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 and views like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like spirit helped me link. It was like, oh my gosh, it helped me link TV, like cable and, channels like that. Again, it's all about views.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I was like, okay, I get it now. I get it. So now I see, I've got to make sure that most of the things, unless there is something like truly urgent that I have to watch, that I have to know about, I will watch it or I will listen to it. However, anytime I do that, I research it thoroughly.
Yes.
I'm that person that I watch the court cases live and I will record it on another channel because I want to see who is taking breaks at certain
Yeah.
points. I want to see what channels are interrupting at certain times and switching things. You see what I'm saying? Because
Yes.
they do this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And if you research it well enough and you record this channel while you're watching this channel and record this channel over here and go back and rewatch the same stuff and see how things are twisted and formed, it's all about fear and ratings, views, so that
Yes.
they can keep going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so, mm-mm.
So I use instead of like you said, unless it's an emergency case to watch the news, instead of watching the news, I've turned that to meditate and connect with the spirits daily. Instead, I was wasting that time doing that when I needed to be doing this.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And the
Mm-hmm.
thing is about, spirit will always reveal if there's something, worldwide or something, in our country or anything like that, that that we need to know, that is, something urgent, we will get that warning.
Yes.
We get that warning.
Yep.
So, I don't really, I try to stay, I'm like you, I try to stay away from it as much as possible.
Yes. And I know this is off subject, but another thing that, that I saw you and Stephanie talk about from Get Spooky Society was, the amethyst under your pillow at night.
Yes.
I started having those bad dreams again. So then I went and got, this is just a little piece, I went and got some raw amethyst and I started putting it under my pillow. And that has kept it has kept the bad dreams and allowing them from coming in. And I'm getting the dreams that I need to have and not the terror dreams. So if anyone else is, having the dreams at night, I still, nightmares, get a piece of amethyst, like you all said, and put it under your pillow, and it works.
It does. And
yes.
something else that you can use as well is black tourmaline. Use black obsidian or selenite, quartz crystal. And the thing about quartz crystals that I absolutely love is you can actually program a quartz crystal, like a raw quartz crystal that you go to a creek or somewhere, and dig out, like Marsha and I have, right?
Yeah.
We have it all. So it's like all you have to do is you can literally put in an intention into that, because they use quartz crystal as like in our watches, it's so many things for memory. So they literally hold memory. Now you got to make sure that you keep them cleansed and charged, at least once a month, and figure out how to do that, what works for you, what you believe. But the main thing here is, in quartz crystal, you can intend it to be that black obsidian. You can intend it to be, that amethyst, any other crystal that you want with the healing properties. So I think that's really interesting too with the quartz. But I love crystals in general. They're beautiful. But the quartz is what I'm absolutely drawn to.
And see, that was another thing. Like you, I was also drawn as a child to all the rocks and the crystals, and I always called them my fossils. I would always be out looking for rocks, and I would sneak little. You remember when Happy Meals used to come in the little plastic buckets? I would bring those in my room and hide them in my closet, and my mom would find them. She's like, "What are all these rocks doing in here?" And I was like, "That's my fossils or my crystals," So I had always been drawn to them as well, but now that's something new that I'm beginning to learn here in the last few months, is learning the crystals. And I've started a collection. Wayne's even built me a built-in desk where I've got all my crystals sitting. So it's always, like I always say, ever learning.
It is. And we have, and so Pamela Esther says, Michelle, you can elaborate if you would like about my reading. You have permission. Pamela, I'm so sorry. I do so many readings, in the zodiacs too, and different. I don't remember, honey. I am so truly sorry. If I would have just done your reading, it would be fresh. But even then, spirit comes through me for reading. So I don't remember a lot of the readings after, once they're finished. Just, a few things that I can hit or miss on, that's kind of it. Let's see. Who's the guest? Do they have a panel? Okay. Hello, Paranormal Research. So if you're asking about Marsha, yes, Marsha has a channel. It is Bluegrass Paranormal and Adventures. She is from Kentucky. Yes. And I'm not sure, or if you're asking about me, yes, my channel is Michelle Rogers, Psychic Medium, Tarot, and more.
And I can't see everyone, but I want to thank everyone for coming in and say hello to everyone. I'm saying hello as you bring them in, but I can't see actually who all is there. So I know we both appreciate it so much.
Yes, so much. Let's see. Jennifer said, amen, break the chain.
Yes. Yes.
Hello, welcome, PDX. Very, very blessed to have you with us, PDX Paranormal. And we have the Graveyard Walker. And you said the Graveyard Walker. What is the name?
Steve.
Steve. Okay, welcome, Steve. Let's see.
Hi,
I did
Steve.
been doing it for a long time since I was a child. Wow, Steve, that is absolutely amazing. You may want to think about if you ever feel comfortable in the future coming on this channel and telling your story, because it's very important to me that we get the word out.
Yes.
There has to be a way shower. Okay.
Mhm.
There has to be teachers who are, saying, you know what? I'm not going to worry about what anyone thinks of me anymore. And because I know this is real, and I am going to be a way shower to help some little kids that may be coming in with these abilities, or someone, who has lived, 20, 30 years with these abilities, and they get ridiculed, and they, things like that. So definitely contact me if you are interested in coming on the show. Let's see. And Lori with Fox, the cutest dog in the West, she says, I think I felt it when my mom passed. Oh, Lori. Okay. And then, okay. So Steve, the Graveyard Walker, says, mine was stronger when I was a child, but now I'm 60 years old and is stronger than ever. Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
I always say I'm 40-ish.
For me said, I think each of us all need some prayers for strength and positive. Yes, absolutely, Jennifer. Okay, let's see. Steve said, also could have been a coincidence.
It is hard to tell your story.
It is. It is. Let's see. Scully's House of Thrillers said, hey, Bluegrass.
Hi, Scully.
And let's see. What else do we have? Okay. PDX Paranormal. I believe we all start out with gifts, let's see, especially the children. But as we grow, we tend to block things out, and or society portrays us and we are crazy. Exactly.
Yes.
That is so
Yes.
true. That's what happened to me. That's what happened to Marcia and so
Mhm.
many people that that I've spoken to. What about you, Marcia? Have you spoken to others that have had the same story?
Yes. And that's one of the main reasons I wanted to come on with you, because if there's one thing that I could say or you could say that could help someone else, then that's what we are here for. And, like you said, I'm not YouTube savvy. This is my first live, so I'm learning too. So hopefully this will be one of many. But,
Yes.
If we don't tell our story, they're not going to know. They're always going to feel like they're rejected, like, something's wrong with them. So
Yes.
it's, don't fear it. Just what I always say, don't fear it, just do it.
Exactly, because as we said and as we believe, we're all born this way. Each and every one of us are born with that connection.
Yes.
So, instead of, teaching people that, hey, that's wrong, we should be like we're doing, we should be teaching people, hey, you're not crazy. Hey, you're not this or this. Now, of course, now I have to say this as a disclaimer. There are mental conditions, okay? But if it is not a mental condition, it's like, why would anyone, this is just my thought, but why would anyone put a limit on God and the divine, the universe? Because there are no limits. That's one of my questions when people reach out to me many times and say, oh, what you're doing is, oh, this is horrible, things like that. I don't allow them to rent space in my head anymore. It used to bother me. It used to make me really nervous.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm like, you know what? That's helping my channel.
Well, I mean, That's one of the main things they also bring up. You know, you're in the cemetery talking to spirits. That's so wrong. Well, doesn't everybody go to the cemetery and talk to their loved ones?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And
Exactly.
that, and every point in my life has brought me to where I am today. And if, you know, I wasn't listening or paying attention to my sole purpose. I tried, you know, younger, but as you said, when you're being told so many times that it's wrong, it's negative, you start putting that block. But then what you're doing is you're shutting down your sole purpose, and you won't find it unless you start to listen.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And Steve said, I get mine early in the morning. I never be able to stop it. He comes without me wanting to know about it or not. Scully's house says thrillers. Fox, the cutest dog in the West. Lori says, wonder if spirits are distorting the sound right now. Oh, are you having a distorted sound on your end from us? Now, Lori, it could be some type of energetic thing going on. Because I literally, you guys know the past 2 weeks, my stuff has been crazy. Like, you can barely see my face. It's all pixelated, right? And my mother-in-law, she just contacted me. I haven't gotten to answer her yet, but I did see on the drop down, she was telling me that her internet and her devices were just all going crazy. So I feel like it's some kind of energetic thing going on here with some kind of shift, or it could be realignments or something like that. Now, I don't know for sure. All I can tell you is go research it. But there are several of us having, those kinds of things happening right now. Okay, and let's see. Now, abandoned exploring ghost. Okay, it said, okay, be back later or see you later, something like that.
I know the channel. I don't know the name, so I'm just going to say hello.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. The graveyard walker, I disagree with her. I'm not sure what that's about. And that's okay. That's okay. That's why we have these discussions. We're not all going to see it the same way. That's okay. We can each have beliefs. Okay. Okay. The graveyard walker. I'm sorry, Marsha. I got to go. Okay.
Thanks for stopping by, Steve.
Pamela, yes. I'm in Kentucky due to an emergency with my dad. Actually, last night he left us in the car, and I brought him back. So, yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. It was. We broke my stepmom and I. We broke down after Dad was brought back. It was just, yeah. It happened in the car.
Oh,
We, yeah,
I just get chills.
we went and got him from the rehab. He's in rehab right now. And we picked him up for a day out, took him to go Star Chili in Berea.
Oh,
And he did well. But so last night when we were taking him back, we had only left his home. It had only been approximately 1 minute. And we still had about 3 minutes to get him back to the rehab. And he started, I don't even want to say it on here, okay? And I can't even talk about it right now. I feel from this too, he is my dad. Okay, got to move on. But brought him back. All is well right now. So, we just keep positive, keep hopeful. And not sure how long I'm going to be here right now, Pamela. So, I mean, we definitely, we still are planning, of course, going back to Florida. It's just, I have to make sure my little stepmom is taken care of and my dad. as well. Before we just don't know with Dad right now. He is actively transitioning, so we just
Right.
don't know. We just
Mm,
don't know.
right.
Let's see. All right. So, hey Dan, welcome. Glad to have you. Uh,
Hi,
so,
Dan.
so Marcia, is there anything else that you would like to add before we close?
Oh, there's so much, but I guess I could leave it with each person are all worthy of what they desire, and if they speak it, they'll speak it into existence if that's what they want. They'll get their answers. I know as growing up, same with me, I was told that, everything wasn't real. You block it out, but let us be an example of that you can.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is hard, you go through a lot to get to that point, but once you're at that point and you continue to grow, it's just so wonderful. It's the only thing I say, it's just wonderful.
Yes, absolutely. It's about releasing the fear.
Yes.
Just release it, and
Mhm.
stop worrying about what other people think about you, us. Again, like I said, comments that I get, I no longer take it to heart because I just look at it as, you know what? Every time I get an interaction, even if it's a thumbs down, woohoo, that's boosted my channel.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
everyone has their right to their own beliefs and opinions, and that is
Right.
okay. It's okay.
Yes.
Because it's not like we are trying to change anyone's belief system or anything like that.
Right.
It's the point of making people aware of our experiences.
Yes.
And those who experience as we do the same things, everyone's not going to experience the same things. But
Right.
those who come to this channel, they find it, Spirit leads them to it, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's what I do, or that's what I hear. There may be something in this to help them, and that's why we do this. So
Yes. And that's how I found you.
you mean how Spirit led us together?
Yes, that's how we were connected. Yes.
Okay, well, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining in this live, and anyone that comes on after the live has posted. We love and appreciate each and every one of you so, so very much. Marcia, again, thank you so much for agreeing to come on here, and thank you for having the strength and courage to do so. It takes a lot, especially for and think about it. I feel so blessed right now because this is your very first live.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for having me too, because like I said, I was so nervous. I'm a very shy type. If you notice in a lot of my videos, I won't show my face. So it's more of coming out of your shell.
Yeah.
I want everybody to know. I've
Yes.
kept it in so long that I want it out. I want everybody to know.
There you
So,
go. There you
yeah.
go. All right.
And
Oh, go ahead.
I just appreciate and thank everyone for stopping by on the live, and appreciate that you had me as a guest on your show, your
Absolutely.
channel.
Absolutely.
So,
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and close. May everyone have an extremely blessed, lovely day, week, year,
yeah.
Lots of abundance to each and every one. Bye-bye.
Bye.